In a crowded gym full of proud parents and smiling kids, one boy stood completely alone, his science project untouched, his eyes filling with tears. The son of a powerful CEO, forgotten and humiliated in front of everyone. But just when the whispers grew cruelest, a single dad noticed and made a phone call that shocked the entire room. Within the hour, 50 NASA engineers stormed the school gym, surrounding the boy's empty table, treating him like a genius. What secret connection did this ordinary dad have to the stars? Why did he risk everything to save a stranger's child? And when the truth comes out, will this act of kindness unite two broken families or tear their worlds apart forever? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The gymnasium buzzed with nervous energy and proud chatter. Rows of trifold boards created a maze of childhood ambition, each decorated with carefully cut letters and printed photos. The smell of glue sticks mixed with the cafeteria's lingering breakfast odor. Ethan Kingsley stood behind his table, straightening the nose cone on his model rocket for the third time. His project board displayed neat diagrams of thrust vectors and fuel ratios, hours of research condensed into colorful charts. The rocket itself, painted silver with red fins, had taken him 2 weeks to perfect. "Nice volcano, Marcus," a parent called out 2 tables over. The crowd around Marcus's papier-mâché mountain grew thicker. Ethan checked his phone. 8:47 a.m. Mom had promised to try. A judge with steel-rimmed glasses paused at his table, scribbled something on her clipboard, and moved on without a word. Ethan's stomach tightened. "Look at Katie's solar system," someone said nearby. "Her whole family came." 3 tables down, Katie beamed as her grandparents snapped photos. Her little brother kept trying to spin Jupiter. Ethan adjusted his rocket again. The gymnasium door opened, and his heart jumped. But it was just another family heading to the robotics section. "That's the Kingsley kid," a woman whispered behind him, not quite soft enough. "You know, Amanda Kingsley's son, the CEO. Oh, the one who bought that pharmaceutical company last month? Laid off hundreds? That's her. Surprised she let him go to public school." The women moved away, their judgment hanging in the air like smoke. Ethan's hands trembled as he reorganized his research papers. Other kids had parents asking questions, taking videos, embarrassing them with too much enthusiasm. He had an empty semicircle of floor space. "Hey, rich boy," Tommy Chen called from across the aisle. "Where's your mom?" "Too busy counting money." A few kids laughed. Mrs. Henderson, the science teacher, was too far away to hear. Ethan stared at his rocket. The silver paint he'd been so proud of now looked cheap. The fins weren't perfectly aligned. His calculations probably had errors. "At least his project looks expensive," another voice muttered. "Probably had someone make it for him." That wasn't true. He'd built it alone in the garage, watching YouTube tutorials on his tablet while eating cereal for dinner, but his throat felt too thick to defend himself. The judges made their second round. Parents clustered around the biology projects, asking excited questions about photosynthesis and cell division. A father lifted his daughter onto his shoulder so she could see over the crowd. Ethan's vision blurred. He blinked hard, but the tears came anyway, hot and unstoppable. They dripped onto his research paper, smudging the ink. "Oh my God, he's actually crying," someone whispered. The empty space around his table seemed to expand. He was an island of failure in an ocean of family pride. His shoulders shook as he tried to hold back the sobs, but they escaped anyway. Ugly, gulping sounds that made everything worse. Parents glanced over with expressions that ranged from pity to discomfort. A few pulled their children away, as if loneliness might be contagious. Across the gymnasium, Daniel Alvarez balanced a cup of coffee and watched his daughter Sophia demonstrate her water filtration system to a small group. She'd insisted on wearing her lucky purple headband, the one with the peace signs. "Dad, look," Sophia waved him over. "Mrs. Rodriguez wants to know about the charcoal layer." Daniel started forward, then stopped. 3 rows over, The Kingsley boy stood alone, shoulders hunched, wiping his face with his sleeve. Daniel knew that posture. He'd worn it himself 15 years ago, standing in a NASA conference room as they explained budget cuts and necessary terminations. He'd worn it at his wife's funeral, trying to be strong for Sophia. He'd worn it every time someone looked at his calloused hands and assumed he couldn't possibly understand rocket propulsion anymore. The boy's project caught his eye, a model rocket with surprising attention to detail. The fin placement showed real thought. The nose cone weight distribution was clever for a kid's project. "Dad?" Sophia appeared at his elbow. "What's wrong?" Daniel nodded toward Ethan's table. Sophia's face fell. "That's Ethan. He's in my English class. Kids are mean to him because his mom's rich and never around." "Never around?" "Parent-teacher conferences, school plays, nothing. He always sits alone at lunch, too. Tommy says it's because nobody wants to be friends with someone whose mom fires people for fun." Daniel's jaw tightened. He'd been fired once, not for fun, but for numbers on a spreadsheet. He knew how it felt to be reduced to someone else's business decision. Ethan had given up pretending to arrange his display. He stood with his arms wrapped around himself, staring at the floor as tears rolled down his cheeks. A judge approached, saw his state, and veered away. "That's not right," Sophia said quietly. "His project's actually really cool. He told me about it last week, something about payload capacity and atmospheric pressure." Daniel watched the boy crumble further, saw how the other parents created a buffer zone of embarrassment around him. The kid wasn't just alone, he was actively being avoided. "You know what?" Daniel said, his old engineering pride stirring. "I still have Marco's number from the Jet Propulsion Lab, and Sarah from Mission Control, and about 48 other people who'd love to see a kid interested in aerospace." Sophia's eyes widened. "Dad, you haven't talked to them in years." "Some things are worth breaking silence for." Daniel pulled out his phone, then stopped. He put a comforting hand on Sophia's shoulder, feeling the familiar weight of responsibility. Not just to his daughter, but to every kid who'd ever been told they didn't matter enough. "No kid should cry alone like that," he said quietly. "Not on my watch." Daniel crossed the gymnasium floor, weaving between clusters of excited families. His work boots made soft thuds against the polished wood. As he approached, Ethan hunched lower, trying to become invisible. Daniel knelt beside the table, bringing himself to the boy's eye level. His knees protested. Too many years crawling under cars, but he stayed down. "That's a solid rocket design," he said softly. "The fin stabilization looks spot on." Ethan's head jerked up. His eyes were red and puffy, nose running. He wiped it with his sleeve. You actually looked at it." "Hard not to. That nose cone weight distribution, did you calculate that yourself?" A spark flickered in Ethan's eyes. "I used the Barrowman equations. Had to modify them because the materials weren't standard. But I figured if I adjusted for the density differential..." Smart thinking. Daniel traced a finger along the rocket's body. "Tell me about the payload capacity." Ethan sniffled, but straightened slightly. "I designed it to carry a small camera. The challenge was balancing the weight without compromising the trajectory. See, if you look at this diagram," his voice gained strength as he pointed to his calculations. "The center of gravity shifts here, but I compensated with these internal supports." "That's graduate-level problem solving." Daniel meant it. "Where'd you learn about dynamic stability?" "YouTube, mostly. And some old NASA technical papers I found online. Nobody explained them, so I had to figure it out myself." Sophia appeared with a pack of tissues from her backpack. "Here," she said gently, pressing them into Ethan's hand. "Your project's amazing. You explained it to me last week, remember? About how real rockets work?" Ethan took the tissues gratefully. "You actually listened." "Of course I did. It was cool." Daniel stood, his mind made up. "Ethan, I need to make a quick call. Sophia, stay with him?" She nodded, already pointing to another diagram. Can you explain this part again? The thrust-to-weight ratio? Daniel stepped into the hallway, scrolling through contacts he hadn't touched in years. Marco Chen answered on the second ring. Danny? Holy hell, is that really you? Marco, I need a favor. Remember how we always said we'd inspire the next generation? Yeah? There's a kid here at Jefferson Middle School's science fair. Brilliant. Built a model rocket with modified Barrowman calculations. He's 12, Marco. 12 years old and working with dynamic stability. No kidding? His table's empty. Every other kid has parents, grandparents, someone. This boy's crying because nobody cares about his work. Silence. Then, that's not right. I know you're at JPL now. Sarah's still at Mission Control. Think you could rally some people? The fair runs another 2 hours. Danny, it's been 5 years since you left. I know, but this kid needs to know his work matters. Marco's voice changed. Jefferson Middle School, you said? Give me 45 minutes. Daniel made 6 more calls. Each former colleague responded the same way. Surprise at hearing from him, then immediate agreement when they heard about Ethan. The aerospace community had long memories for brilliance and longer ones for loneliness. When Daniel returned, Sophia had Ethan explaining thrust vectors. His tears had dried, leaving salt tracks on his cheeks, but his hands moved animatedly as he talked. Who were you calling? Ethan asked. Some old friends. They like rockets, too. The boy's shoulders sagged. They're not coming. Nobody ever comes. We'll see. The science fair continued around them. Judges marked their scorecards. Parents snapped photos. The popular kids' tables drew crowds while Ethan's remained an island of 3. 53 minutes later, the gymnasium doors swung open. A woman in a Navy JPL polo entered first, her ID badge swinging. Behind her, 2 men in NASA shirts, then more. They kept coming, engineers in work clothes, some still wearing safety glasses pushed up on their heads, others carrying tablets and notebooks. The gym's buzz quieted. Is that? A parent whispered. NASA badges? Real ones. The engineers moved with purpose, their target clear. They surrounded Ethan's table in a semicircle. Marco Chen, his beard now gray but his eyes still sharp, leaned over the rocket model. So, you're the engineer who modified the Barrowman equations? He asked Ethan. Walk me through your process. Ethan's mouth opened, but no sound came. Daniel touched his shoulder gently. They're here to learn from you, he said. Show them what you built. The modification was necessary because, Ethan's voice cracked, then steadied. Because hobby rocket materials have different density distributions than professional ones, so I created a correction factor. Sarah from Mission Control pulled out her tablet. Can I photograph these calculations? This is elegant work. You want to photograph my math? Are you kidding? We had an intern last summer who couldn't figure this out. Another engineer examined the nose cone. This weight distribution is clever. How do you determine the optimal balance point? Trial and error mostly. I built 6 versions until 6 iterations. That's proper engineering methodology. The questions kept coming, technical and specific. Ethan answered each one, his voice growing stronger. The engineers didn't patronize him. They engaged him as a peer, pointing out strengths, suggesting improvements, debating solutions. Has anyone explained multi-stage separation to you? Marco asked. Ethan shook his head. Here, let me sketch it out. The crowd of parents and students pressed closer, phones raised, recording the surreal scene. The boy who'd been crying alone now stood at the center of dozens of NASA engineers, his face glowing as they applauded his answers. Tommy Peterson, who'd made the crack about buying projects, stood slack-jawed. That's not fair, he muttered. His mom probably called them. His mom's not here, Sophia said loudly. My dad called them, because unlike some people, he knows brilliance when he sees it. Ethan looked at Daniel with an expression of wonder. Daniel winked. By the time the engineers finished their questions, Ethan's cheeks hurt from grinning. His tears now were different, the kind that came from being seen, truly seen, for the first time. The clicking of heels against polished gymnasium floor cut through the excited chatter. Amanda Kingsley moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who calculated every second, her charcoal suit still crisp despite the 14-hour day behind her. She'd left the board meeting mid-presentation, something she'd never done before, when her assistant showed her a video circulating online. NASA engineers surrounding a science fair table. Her son's table. She stopped at the gymnasium entrance. Where she expected to find Ethan alone, maybe sulking in a corner, she found him at the center of a crowd. His hands moved as he explained something complex, his voice carrying across the space with confidence she'd never heard before. The trajectory calculation assumes ideal conditions, Ethan was saying to a woman in a JPL Polo, but I added a variable for wind resistance based on local weather patterns. The woman nodded, making notes. Smart thinking, real-world application. Amanda's chest tightened. When had her son learned to speak with such authority? When had his shoulders straightened like that? That's the Kingsley boy's mom, a teacher whispered nearby. Finally showed up. After that mechanic saved the day, another added. Can you imagine? 50 NASA engineers because one man made a few phone calls. Amanda's gaze found Daniel Alvarez standing off to the side, his daughter beside him. He watched Ethan with the satisfied look of someone who'd fixed something important, not with tools, but with kindness. She approached through the crowd, her presence creating a small wake of turned heads and hushed voices. The NASA engineers glanced at her, some recognizing the tech CEO from news articles, but their focus remained on Ethan. Mom. Ethan's face lit up, then dimmed slightly. You came. Of course I came, sweetheart. Mom, you came, Ethan said, louder now, his voice carrying an edge she didn't expect. But he's the one who made me feel like I mattered today. The words landed like physical blows. Around them, the engineers shifted uncomfortably. Amanda's practiced composure cracked for just a moment before she rebuilt it. Daniel stepped forward, his work-roughened hands raised slightly. Kids say things when they're excited. He's had quite an afternoon. No, I mean it, Ethan insisted, his new confidence making him bold. Mr. Alvarez saw me crying, and he didn't just walk by. He called his friends. Real NASA engineers, Mom. They asked me questions like I was smart, like my project meant something. Amanda turned to Daniel, searching for the right words. The boardroom had taught her to negotiate billion-dollar deals, but standing here in her son's moment of triumph that she'd nearly missed, language failed her. Thank you, she managed. What you did today. Daniel shrugged, the gesture dismissive of his own actions. No kid should feel invisible at their own science fair. Ethan's got real talent. These folks just confirmed what was already true. Marco Chen approached, extending his hand to Amanda. Miss Kingsley, Marco Chen, JPL. Your son has exceptional spatial reasoning skills. With the right mentorship, he could go far in aerospace. He's 12, Amanda said, as if that explained something. I was 11 when I built my first rocket, Marco replied. The difference was I had people who noticed. Today, Ethan got that. Thanks to Daniel here, other engineers approached, offering business cards, summer program recommendations, contact information. They spoke to Ethan directly, as a peer, while Amanda stood to the side like a spectator at her own son's life. We should head out, Sarah from Mission Control announced. But Ethan, you keep building. The world needs thinkers like you. The engineers filed out, several stopping to pat Ethan's shoulder or shake his hand. The gymnasium felt smaller in their absence, ordinary again, except for the glow on Ethan's face. Principal Morrison approached with a ribbon, honorable mention for effort and perseverance. Ethan, what you showed today went beyond any prize we could give, but this is yours. Ethan clutched the ribbon like treasure. Amanda watched him show it to Daniel first, saw the man's genuine pride, the way he ruffled Ethan's hair with familiar affection. When had her son become comfortable with this stranger's touch when he still flinched at her attempted hugs? "We should celebrate," Daniel said. "Ice cream? My treat." "Can we, Mom?" Ethan's eyes pleaded. Amanda's phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from the office, urgent emails piling up, but her son was looking at her, really looking at her, for the first time in months. "I should get back to—" She stopped herself. Yes, ice cream sounds perfect. They walked out together, an odd quartet. The CEO, the mechanic, and their children. Amanda noticed how Ethan gravitated toward Daniel, how naturally the man included both children in conversation, how her son laughed at something Sophia said. Later, alone in her office at 10 p.m., Amanda stared at the video her assistant had sent. She watched it 6 times. Each viewing revealed something new. Daniel's gentle hand on Ethan's shoulder, the way he'd knelt to eye level, how he'd made those calls without hesitation or expectation of thanks. In one afternoon, this stranger had given her son what she'd failed to provide in 12 years, the certainty that he mattered. The ribbon from the fair sat on her desk. Ethan had insisted she keep it in her office where everyone can see. She picked up her phone, then set it down. What did you say to the man who'd saved your son's spirit? What words existed for that debt? Outside, the city lights sparkled. Inside, Amanda Kingsley, who'd built an empire, who'd never lost a negotiation, sat in the dark and wondered how she'd lost her son without noticing, and whether a mechanic's kindness could teach her to get him back. Amanda's driver navigated through morning traffic while she sat in the back, phone untouched in her lap. The leather seats that usually felt like a mobile office now seemed to trap her with yesterday's memories. Ethan's words echoed. "He's the one who made me feel like I mattered." "Ma'am?" The driver glanced in the mirror. "The conference call?" She'd forgotten. 20 minutes late to her own meeting. "Tell them to proceed without me." In the boardroom, executives presented quarterly projections while Amanda stared through them. Her CFO repeated a question twice before she heard it. Market shares and profit margins blurred together, meaningless numbers when weighed against her son's tears at an empty table. "Perhaps we should reconvene," someone suggested, and Amanda didn't argue. That evening she arrived home to find Ethan at the kitchen table, notebook spread open, sketching rocket designs. He looked up, and instead of the usual quick greeting before disappearing to his room, he launched into an explanation. "Mr. Alvarez said the thrust-to-weight ratio is everything. See? If I adjust the fins here," his pencil flew across the page. "Sophia thinks we could use aluminum instead of plastic, but Daniel, Mr. Alvarez, said we should start simple." Amanda set down her bag, mesmerized. When had Ethan last said this many words to her at once? "The NASA engineers gave me their emails. Marco said I could send him my designs." Ethan's eyes sparkled. "Can Sophia come over sometime?" "She's really good at math, and we could work on the trajectory calculations together." "Of course." Amanda sat beside him, careful not to disturb his papers. "Tell me more about the rocket." For 20 minutes, Ethan explained propulsion and Newton's laws with the enthusiasm she remembered from when he was 7, before work consumed her weekends, before missed recitals became the norm. "Mr. Alvarez understands all this stuff," Ethan said. "He worked on actual Mars rovers. Can you believe someone like that lives here and just fixes cars?" "Mim paita." The admiration in his voice twisted something in Amanda's chest. Saturday morning found her standing outside a small ranch house with peeling blue paint and a garden that had seen better days. Through the garage window, she spotted Daniel and Sophia bent over a workbench, safety goggles on, focused on something wooden. Daniel answered the door in jeans and a faded NASA t-shirt, sawdust in his hair. "Miss Kingsley?" "Amanda, please." He stepped aside. The house smelled like coffee and wood shavings. Family photos lined the hallway. Sophia as a baby, a woman who must have been her mother, Daniel in a NASA uniform, looking younger, prouder. Coffee? He led her to a kitchen that was clean but worn, mismatched chairs around a scratched table. I came to thank you properly, and to ask something. Daniel poured 2 mugs, waiting. Ethan hasn't stopped talking about you, about rockets and engineering, and Amanda wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic. I haven't seen him this engaged in years. He's a bright kid, just needed someone to see it. That's the thing. You saw it. In 5 minutes, you saw what I've been missing. The admission scraped her throat. I'm failing him. You're busy. Running a company dash quote. Stop. Amanda's voice cracked. Please don't make excuses for me. I've made enough for myself. Sophia appeared in the doorway. Dad, the glue's not... Oh, hi, Mrs. Kingsley. Hi, Sophia. Your dad's told me you're quite the engineer yourself. Sophia beamed. We're making a jewelry box for my teacher. Dad's showing me how to do dovetail joints. Soph, give us a minute, Daniel said gently. After she left, Amanda gathered her courage. I need to ask you something. Ethan needs a mentor, someone who understands science, yes, but more than that, someone who has time for him, patience, someone who remembers what it's like to dream big. Daniel set down his mug. Amanda, I'm just a mechanic now. I left NASA years ago. You're a mechanic who called 50 engineers to save a boy's spirit. You're a father who teaches dovetail joints on Saturdays. You're exactly what Ethan needs. I don't know if, please. The word came out desperate. I'm not asking you to replace me. I'm asking you to be what I can't. Once a week, maybe. I'll pay whatever. I won't take money for spending time with a kid. Then, as a favor, to Ethan. Daniel studied her for a long moment. She saw him catalog the designer clothes, the expensive watch, the exhaustion beneath the polish. Wednesday afternoons, he said finally. I close the shop early. He can come by after school. We'll work on his rocket. Relief flooded through her. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm just a guy with a garage and some spare time. But he was already more than that to Ethan. When Amanda told him that evening, her son actually hugged her, brief, awkward, but real. Can I really? Every Wednesday? If you keep your grades up. Ethan was already running to his room, shouting about preparing designs to show Mr. Alvarez. Amanda stood in the hallway of her pristine house, listening to her son's joy, and faced a truth she'd been avoiding. She'd built an empire, but couldn't reach her own son. It had taken a mechanic's kindness to bridge that gap. She wasn't enough on her own. The admission should have stung more, but watching Ethan's excitement, all she felt was grateful that Daniel Alvarez existed. 3 weeks melted into a comfortable pattern. Every Wednesday, Ethan burst through Daniel's garage door with his backpack full of sketches and questions. Sophia would already have the workbench cleared, tools laid out like surgical instruments. Today we're testing fuel mixtures, Daniel announced one afternoon, holding up small canisters. Nothing dangerous, just baking soda and vinegar ratios. Ethan measured carefully while Sophia recorded data in a notebook. Their prototype rocket sat nearby, painted silver with ES Explorer stenciled on the side, Ethan and Sophia's initials. Amanda arrived as they launched the 5th test. The small rocket shot 15 feet into the air before landing in Daniel's neglected rose bushes. Mom, did you see that? Ethan's face glowed. I saw. She stood in the doorway, designer suit out of place among the tools and sawdust. That was amazing. Daniel handed her safety goggles. Want to help with the next one? She hesitated, then slipped them on. For an hour, she forgot about quarterly reports and board meetings, lost in her son's laughter as they adjusted pressure valves together. These moments became her secret treasure. Tuesday nights, Ethan would explain combustion chambers over dinner. His grades improved. Teachers sent notes home about his newfound participation. He even made a friend, Marcus, who thought rockets were cool. The change was remarkable, too remarkable to go unnoticed. The first whisper came during a board meeting. Richard Hoffman, her chief rival for the chairman position, smirked as he passed. "Heard your boy's got himself a new daddy. A mechanic, isn't it? How diverse." Amanda's jaw tightened. "Daniel Alvarez is a former NASA engineer who's graciously mentoring my son." "NASA?" Richard's laugh was cold. "Right. And now he fixes cars. Quite the career trajectory." By the following week, the whispers had spread. Board members exchanged glances when she entered rooms. Her assistant fielded strange calls from gossip columnists. Then the article appeared. Tech CEO Amanda Kingsley's parenting crisis. Neglected son finds father figure in blue-collar worker. The piece was devastating. Anonymous sources questioned her judgment, her priorities, her fitness as both mother and executive. They painted Daniel as an opportunist, Ethan as a charity case, and Amanda as a failure hiding behind her fortune. One photo showed Daniel's modest house with its peeling paint. Another caught Amanda in sunglasses, rushing from her car, looking every inch the absent executive. But the worst was Ethan at the science fair. Tears on his face, alone at his table. Somehow the photographer had captured that moment before Daniel arrived. At school Thursday morning, Ethan heard everything. "That's him," a mother whispered to another near the lockers. "The poor kid whose mom pays someone to pretend to care. $100 billion company but can't spare time for her own son." That mechanic probably saw dollar signs the moment. Ethan ran. He hid in the bathroom until Marcus found him, then spent lunch in the library, stomach churning. The joy he'd carried for weeks crumbled into shame. He didn't go to Daniel's that Wednesday. "Where's Ethan?" Sophia asked, checking the door for the 5th time. Daniel tried calling. Amanda picked up on the first ring. "He won't come out of his room," she said, voice hollow. "He heard people talking at school." That evening, Amanda faced her board. The conference room felt arctic despite the morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. "This has become a distraction," Board Chairman William Cross said, sliding a tablet across the mahogany table. Social media metrics glowed on the screen. "Our stock is down 3 points." "Because of gossip." Amanda kept her voice level. "Because of perception." Richard leaned forward. "You're the face of this company. Your arrangement with this mechanic reflects poorly on all of us." "Daniel Alvarez is a rocket scientist who—" "Was past tense." Richard's smile was sharp. "Now he's a liability." "Distance yourself. Find a proper tutor from Princeton or MIT, someone who fits our image." "Our image?" Amanda's hands clenched under the table. "End it," William said simply, "or we'll discuss whether you're still the right fit for CEO." That night, Amanda sat in her penthouse office, laptop screen casting blue light across her face. Email after email demanded action. Reporters wanted statements. Investors expressed concern. One message from a board member's wife offered the name of an appropriate tutor, white, Harvard-educated, $600 an hour. She closed the laptop and picked up the framed photo from her desk. Ethan at last year's Christmas party, forcing a smile for the camera, eyes empty. Next to it sat a new picture Sophia had taken, Ethan and Daniel launching a rocket, both laughing, covered in grass stains and genuine joy. 20 miles away, Daniel sat at his kitchen table, bills spread before him. The garage had been slow this week. 3 customers had canceled without explanation. He knew why. Sophia was asleep upstairs, unaware that kids at school had started calling her dad names she was too young to understand. Daniel's hands folded together, calloused fingers interlocking. "Lord, grant me strength," he whispered to the empty kitchen. "Not for me. For them. For Ethan. For whatever comes next." Outside, storm clouds gathered over the city, promising rain by morning. Saturday morning sunlight streamed through the open garage door, illuminating dust motes that danced above Daniel's workbench. The space smelled of motor oil and sawdust. honest sense that spoke of real work. Tools hung in precise rows on pegboard walls, wrenches graduated by size, screwdrivers nested in worn leather loops. "Now watch close," Daniel said, holding a thin wire between his fingers. "This connects to the ignition system. Too loose and nothing happens. Too tight and—" Boom? Ethan's eyes widened. More like pfft. Daniel made a deflating sound that sent Sophia giggling. Disappointment's worse than explosion sometimes. Ethan leaned closer, studying how Daniel's hands moved. Steady, patient, sure. The small model rocket took shape piece by piece. A cardboard tube became the body. Balsa wood fins attached at perfect angles. Each component had purpose. "Why does it need 3 fins instead of 4? Sophia asked, chin propped on her hands. "Balance," Daniel replied. "Too many fins and it fights itself. Too few and it spins wild. Like life, you need just enough support to fly straight." Ethan nodded, absorbing every word. His fingers trembled slightly as Daniel handed him the nose cone. "Your turn. Gentle pressure. Let the glue do the work." The cone slipped. Glue splattered across the workbench and onto Ethan's sleeve. His face flushed red. "I'm sorry, Hey." Daniel's voice stayed calm. "Know how many rockets I've built?" "Hundreds." "Know how many times I've spilled glue?" "Thousands." He grabbed a rag, wiping the mess without fuss. "Mistakes teach us. Perfect on the first try teaches nothing." Amanda stood frozen in the doorway, still wearing her charcoal suit from the morning's emergency board meeting. She'd rushed here straight from the office, expecting to collect Ethan quickly. Instead, she witnessed something that stopped her cold. Her son wasn't performing, wasn't trying to impress. He was simply learning, being. "Mom!" Ethan spotted her, face lighting up. "Look what we're building." "It's wonderful, sweetheart." Daniel glanced up, noting her formal attire, the tension in her shoulders. "Long morning?" "The usual." She stepped inside, heels clicking on concrete. "Don't let me interrupt." Actually, perfect timing. Daniel lifted the completed rocket. "Ready for launch." They walked to the empty field behind Daniel's house, grass still damp with morning dew. Sophia carried the launch pad, a simple wooden base with a metal rod. Ethan clutched the rocket like treasure. "Remember what we talked about?" Daniel said, kneeling beside Ethan. "Angle matters. Wind direction matters. But most important, having fun," Ethan guessed. "Learning from what happens. Success or failure, both teach." They set up the launcher. Daniel connected the ignition wires to a small battery pack, then handed Ethan the trigger, a simple button on a long cord. "Count us down, astronaut." Ethan's voice rang clear. 3, 2, 1, ignition. The rocket hissed, sputtered, then shot upward. Not high, maybe 20 feet, but enough. It arced gracefully before the parachute deployed, floating down like a falling leaf. "It worked." Ethan jumped, pumping his fist. "Did you see? It actually worked." Amanda found herself clapping, genuine delight breaking through her corporate armor. Sophia danced around Ethan, both children laughing. Daniel stood back, hands in his pockets, that quiet smile spreading across his weathered face. "Can we launch it again?" Ethan asked. "After pizza," Daniel said. "Scientists need fuel too." Back in Daniel's kitchen, Amanda perched uncomfortably on a wooden chair that had seen better days. The table was small, forcing them close together. Sophia distributed paper plates, while Daniel pulled a pizza from the oven, not delivery, but homemade. "You cook?" Amanda couldn't hide her surprise. "Single dad." Daniel shrugged, cutting slices. "Learn quick or eat cereal forever." The dough was slightly thick, cheese unevenly distributed, but Ethan devoured 2 slices without pausing. Amanda watched her son interact with the Alvarez family, natural, unguarded. He helped Sophia clean up spills without being asked, laughed at Daniel's terrible space jokes, belonged. "Mr. Alvarez was telling us about the Challenger mission," Ethan said through a mouthful of pizza. He watched it happen. Daniel's expression shifted, growing distant. I was in college. Engineering program. Watching in the common room with everyone. He paused, choosing words carefully. Hardest lesson I ever learned. That failure costs lives when you're not careful, but also that you keep going. You honor those lost by building better, safer, by not giving up. Amanda set down her slice. You must miss it. NASA. Every day. The admission came quiet but firm, but Sophia needed stability. Kids come first. Their eyes met across the table. Understanding passed between them. Two parents who'd made different sacrifices, both wondering if they'd chosen right. Later, as Amanda helped clear dishes, she found herself moving naturally in the small kitchen. No staff, no marble counters, just a father and daughter's lived-in space. Photos covered the refrigerator, Sophia's artwork, school pictures, a faded shot of Daniel in a NASA shirt, younger, prouder. Thank you, she said softly, for today, for everything you're doing for Ethan. He's a good kid, smart, just needs someone to see it. He needs more than that. The admission hurt. He needs what you give him, what I can't. Daniel dried his hands on a dish towel, considering his words. You're here. That matters. But as Amanda drove home that night, Ethan chattering excitedly about trajectories and thrust ratios, she knew the truth. Her son trusted Daniel with his dreams in ways he'd never trust her. The question that haunted her through the dark streets wasn't whether she was grateful. It was whether gratitude was enough. The following Monday, Ethan carried his lunch tray through the cafeteria like he was floating. He'd been talking about Saturday's rocket launch all morning, drawing trajectory diagrams in his notebook margins during math class. My dad says your new friend is just a mechanic, Brady Morrison announced, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Why is he pretending to know about NASA? Sophia's fork clattered against her tray. He's not pretending anything. He worked there. Real engineering, not like your dad pushing papers at the bank. At least my mom shows up to things, Brady shot back, eyes on Ethan. And at least Ethan's project doesn't come from the internet. Sophia's voice carried sharp edges. Everyone knows your volcano was copy-pasted. Ethan built his rocket from scratch. Ethan stared at his sandwich, ears burning. But something had changed since Saturday. Instead of shrinking, he looked up. Mr. Alvarez helped, yeah, because he wanted to. Not because anyone paid him or made him. His voice stayed steady. That's worth more than showing up just to take pictures for Instagram. Brady opened his mouth, then closed it. Sophia grinned, bumping Ethan's shoulder with hers. That afternoon, Ethan waited by the school pickup zone, bouncing on his heels. Mom, can we go to Mr. Alvarez's instead of home? He said he'd show me how circuits work today. Amanda checked her phone. 3 missed calls from the office. 6 urgent emails. Ethan, I have work. Please? Just for an hour? The hope in his voice made refusal impossible. 1 hour. But 1 hour stretched into 3. Amanda found herself perched on a stool in Daniel's garage again, laptop forgotten in her car, watching Daniel and the children huddle over a breadboard covered in tiny components. See this resistor? Daniel pointed with tweezers. What happens if we skip it? The LED burns out? Ethan guessed. Let's find out. Daniel removed the component, connected the circuit. The small light flared bright, then died with a tiny pop. Whoa! Sophia leaned closer. It just gave up. Like pushing too hard without protection, Daniel explained, pulling out a fresh LED. In science, in life, we need resistance sometimes. Slows us down but keeps us from burning out. Amanda shifted on her stool. The parallel wasn't lost on her. Now, Daniel continued, replacing the resistor, what if I told you we could make this LED twice as bright by lying about the voltage? Ethan frowned. But that's not what really happened. Exactly. And that's the difference between real science and just wanting to win. Daniel's hand stayed steady as he worked. I knew engineers at NASA who fudged small numbers, thought it didn't matter. Those small lies? They add up. Challenger happened because people ignored small truths. The garage fell quiet. Even Sophia stopped fidgeting. Your results matter, Daniel said, meeting Ethan's eyes. But your honesty matters more. Awards fade. Integrity doesn't. Amanda felt the words like stones in her chest. How many small compromises had she made climbing the corporate ladder? How many strategic adjustments to quarterly reports? Over the following evenings, the pattern continued. Amanda would arrive intending to collect Ethan quickly, then find herself drawn into their world. Tuesday, Daniel taught about sustainable energy while helping them build a tiny solar panel. Wednesday, he explained gravity using marbles and a stretched bedsheet, Sophia and Ethan laughing as planets collided. Each lesson carried deeper meaning: patience when experiments failed, humility when they succeeded, the importance of documenting mistakes, not hiding them. In my world, Daniel said one evening, adjusting Ethan's grip on a soldering iron, a hidden mistake could mean someone doesn't come home. So we admit them, learn from them, share them so others don't repeat them. Amanda watched her son absorb these lessons with an attention he'd never shown for her business advice. Daniel wasn't just teaching science, he was teaching character. Thursday evening, as the children cleaned up, Amanda pulled Daniel aside in the kitchen. I should pay you for your time, the materials. Daniel's expression shifted, not quite hurt, but close. No, you're giving so much. Some things aren't bought. His voice stayed gentle but firm. Some things are given. Ethan needs mentoring, not a transaction. The moment you pay me, it becomes a service. Right now, it's just what neighbors do. Amanda fumbled with her purse, uncomfortable with charity, with owing something she couldn't invoice. I make enough, Daniel continued. We get by. What Ethan gives Sophia, a friend who shares her interests, that's payment enough. She's bloomed since they started building together. The drive home was quiet. Ethan dozed in the passenger seat, clutching a circuit board they'd made, a small LED still blinking like a heartbeat. Amanda glanced at her son in the rearview mirror. His face was peaceful, unmarked by the anxiety that usually lived there. At a red light, she studied her hands on the steering wheel, manicured. Soft hands that signed deals worth millions, but had never taught her son to build anything real. Daniel's hands were different, scarred from work, steady from experience, hands that fixed things, created things, guided without forcing. The light turned green, but the weight in her chest remained. She was grateful for Daniel, deeply so. But gratitude mixed with something sharper, envy maybe, or grief. Grief for the parent she'd meant to be versus the one she'd become. The CEO who could buy anything except the ability to fill the role Daniel filled so naturally. As Ethan shifted in his sleep, still clutching his circuit board, Amanda whispered a truth into the darkness. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I'm not enough. The Riverside Community Center hummed with nervous energy. 3 weeks had passed since Amanda's quiet confession in the car, and now hundreds of families filed through the doors for the regional STEM showcase. Ethan stood beside his display table, adjusting the lunar base model for the 5th time. Stop fidgeting, Sophia said, swatting his hand away. You're going to break something. What if they ask about the thermal regulation system? I might have calculated wrong. You didn't. Daniel appeared behind them, steady as always. We checked it 3 times, remember? Trust your work. The lunar base sprawled across the table, a detailed model complete with solar panels that actually rotated, tiny LED lights powered by a small battery, and a water recycling system made from aquarium tubing. Each component had been built in Daniel's garage over countless evenings, Sophia painting the tiny astronaut figures while Ethan wired the circuits. Amanda approached in jeans and a simple sweater, clothes that still looked expensive, but marked a departure from her usual armor of business suits. She'd blocked her entire calendar, ignoring 3 calls from board members on the drive over. "Mom, you came early." Ethan's surprise stung more than his earlier criticisms. "Wouldn't miss it." She studied the model, recognizing Daniel's teaching in every careful detail. "This is incredible, sweetheart." The judges began their rounds. A stern woman with steel-gray hair approached first, peering through reading glasses at Ethan's project. Other parents drifted closer. Some Amanda recognized from school events where they'd whispered about her absence. "Tell me about your base," the judge said. Ethan's voice started shaky. "It's designed for the lunar South Pole, where we have both permanent shadow for cooling and peaks with near-constant sunlight for power." As he explained the dual solar array system, his confidence grew. Daniel had taught him to speak clearly, to pause for questions, to admit when he didn't know something. Sophia jumped in occasionally, explaining the water recycling component she'd helped design. The biggest challenge was balancing power consumption with generation, Ethan continued, pointing to his calculations. "We can't just add more panels because launch weight is expensive, so efficiency becomes critical." The judge's expression softened. "You calculated launch costs?" "Mr. de Alvarez, Daniel, he helped me find NASA's actual cost per kilogram data. Every gram matters when it costs thousands of dollars to send it to space." Parents who'd been skeptical moved closer. A father asked about radiation shielding. A mother wondered about growing food. Ethan fielded each question, sometimes admitting uncertainty, but always circling back to his research. "I don't know everything," he said at one point, "but that's why we test and improve." Daniel says the best scientists are the ones who admit what they don't know. Amanda watched her son transform from the anxious boy at the empty science fair table into someone confident, knowledgeable, passionate. Behind the growing crowd, she spotted Daniel leaning against the far wall, arms crossed, trying to stay invisible. But she caught the moisture in his eyes when Ethan explained how redundant systems could save lives. "You taught him that," Sophia had said once, but he taught him to care about it. The judges moved on, but families lingered. Children asked if they could touch the model. Parents asked where Ethan learned such advanced concepts. "My mentor taught me," Ethan said simply. "He used to work at NASA." Eyes turned to find this mentor. Daniel stayed in the shadows, but Sophia dragged him forward. "This is my dad. He's the smartest person ever, even if he just fixes cars now." Daniel's cheeks darkened. "Sophia, dash. It's true," Ethan insisted. "He knows everything about space. He should still be at NASA, but—" The boy caught himself, remembering it wasn't his story to tell. An uncomfortable silence fell. Everyone knew the narrative. Brilliant man reduced to manual labor probably couldn't handle the pressure. Amanda wanted to correct them, to explain Daniel's sacrifice, his choice to raise Sophia alone, but she held back. Not her story either. The afternoon wore on. More families visited Ethan's table than any other, drawn by word of mouth about the boy with the NASA mentor. When the announcement time arrived, the room packed tight. Third place goes to Sarah Chen for her water filtration system. Amanda found Ethan's hand squeezing tight. Second place, Marcus Williams for his robotic prosthetic hand. Ethan's shoulders sagged slightly. Amanda pulled him closer. And first place goes to Jennifer Park for her coral reef restoration model. The applause was polite but distracted because the announcer continued. "This year, we're introducing a special recognition." The Future Innovator Award goes to a student who showed not just scientific excellence, but also vision, collaboration, and the kind of systems thinking our world desperately needs. "Ethan Kingsley, please come forward." The room erupted. Ethan stood frozen until Sophia shoved him forward. As he walked to receive the award, a small trophy and a certificate, the applause grew louder. Parents who'd whispered about the neglected rich kid now clapped hardest. Amanda found herself crying, not caring who saw. Her son stood on that small stage, clutching his award, scanning the crowd until he found Daniel. "Thank you to my mentor," Ethan said into the microphone, voice clear. "Daniel Alvarez, who taught me that science isn't about being the smartest. It's about never stopping learning." Daniel tried to shrink back, but the crowd turned, applauding him directly. Someone started a chant of speech, but Daniel just raised one hand, smiled, and shook his head. Later, at Mickey's ice cream shop, 4 voices tangled over each other. "Did you see Mrs. Patterson's face when you explained the thermal dynamics?" Sophia giggled. "The judge totally knew you from NASA," Ethan told Daniel. "I saw her recognize your name. That's Dr. Martinez. We worked on 2 missions together." Daniel's voice was quiet. "Good times." Amanda watched them, her phone silent in her purse, boardroom crises ignored. Ethan had chocolate on his nose. Sophia was stealing bites of everyone's sundae. Daniel was explaining how real lunar bases might differ from Ethan's model, drawing diagrams on napkins. "You know what's funny?" Ethan said suddenly. "I didn't even care about winning first. I just wanted to explain it right, like you taught me." Daniel's smile reached his eyes. "That's when you know you're a real scientist, when the work matters more than the prize." Amanda felt it then, perfect contentment. Her son, happy and confident, this makeshift family bound by choice rather than blood. The night air warm through open windows, laughter spilling onto empty streets. Tomorrow would bring its challenges. The whispers would resume. The board would demand her attention. But tonight, in this small ice cream shop with mismatched chairs and sticky tables, life felt absolutely perfect. The first headline appeared at 4:47 a.m. "Tech Queen Neglects Her Son. Mechanic Fills Father Role." By 6 a.m., the 3 more variations spread across social media. By 7:30, when Amanda walked into Westfield Middle School's parking lot with Ethan, parents stood in clusters, phones glowing, voices carrying. Always knew something was off about that arrangement. Letting some random mechanic. Poor kid, really. All that money and no real parenting. Ethan's steps slowed. His fingers tightened on his backpack straps. "Mom?" "Keep walking, sweetheart." But the damage was done. Ethan had heard enough. Inside the boardroom at Kingsley Tech, 12 faces turned as Amanda entered. Richard Brennan, her longtime rival, sat at the far end, poorly hiding his satisfaction. Amanda. Board Chairman Walter Hughes didn't stand. "We need to discuss this situation." She took her seat. "What situation would that be, Walter?" "Don't play coy." Margaret Chen, usually an ally, slid a tablet across the table. "This has gone viral. Our stock dipped 2 points this morning." The article was worse than the headline. Photos from the ice cream shop. Amanda laughing while a scruffy mechanic helped her son. Quotes from anonymous sources about her absences, her delegation of parenting. The writer even questioned whether Daniel's interest was purely mentorship or something more calculated. "This is character assassination," Amanda said. "This is reality." Richard leaned forward. "You've let your personal life contaminate our corporate image. Investors are asking questions." "About what? That I found a mentor for my son?" "About your judgment." Walter's voice stayed level, but firm. "Bringing this Daniel into your circle. The optics are terrible. A Latino mechanic. Choose your next words very carefully, Walter." The room chilled. Margaret tried mediation. "Amanda, we're not questioning the man's character, but perception matters. You know this. I know my son is thriving for the first time in years. At what cost?" Richard stood pacing now. "We're a Fortune 500 company. Our CEO can't be splashed across tabloids like some what?" Richard's mouth snapped shut. Walter cleared his throat. "The board strongly suggests you distance yourself from this arrangement, for everyone's sake." Across town, Daniel's phone buzzed with concerned texts from fellow mechanics. He ignored them, focused on the Ford engine he was rebuilding. But when Sophia came home from school, her eyes red, he set down his wrench. "What happened, mija?" "Nothing." "Sophia." She crumbled. "They said you're our pity project, that Mrs. Kingsley just feels sorry for us because we're poor, that you're using Ethan to get money." Daniel pulled her close, feeling her tears soak his work shirt. "You know that's not true? But everyone's saying it. Even Ethan heard. He didn't eat lunch, just sat alone." Daniel's jaw tightened. He'd endured plenty of judgments over the years. Brilliant engineer turned grease monkey, single father who couldn't keep a wife. But watching it touch Sophia and Ethan lit something cold in his chest. That evening, Amanda arrived at Daniel's house after dark. She looked exhausted, designer suit wrinkled, makeup smudged. "We need to talk." They sat at his kitchen table, the same one where he'd prayed weeks earlier. Sophia was in her room, homework supposedly, though both adults knew she was listening. "The board wants me to end this." Amanda's voice was flat. "The mentorship, the friendship, all of it. And I don't know what to do." The admission cracked something in her composure. "My entire career, I've navigated corporate politics perfectly. But this, Daniel, they're using you to hurt Ethan, using me to hurt you and Sophia." Daniel's hand stayed steady around his coffee mug. "What does Ethan want?" "He won't talk to me. Came home, went straight to his room. He's processing shame. It's not his fault. But kids that age internalize everything." "How are you so calm?" Daniel considered the question. "Because I've been at the bottom before. Lost my NASA career, my marriage, nearly lost myself. You learn that other people's opinions are just noise. What matters is truth. The truth is I'm failing my son. The truth is you're trying." That's more than many do. Amanda's phone lit up with messages. Board members, reporters, PR crisis managers. She turned it face down. "If I don't comply, they'll force me out." "If you do comply, what message does that send Ethan?" The question hung between them. Meanwhile, 20 miles away in a penthouse bedroom, Ethan lay still, eyes tracking the ceiling fan's lazy rotation. The Future Innovator Award sat on his desk, ribbon catching streetlight through the window. Earlier, he'd almost thrown it away. What was the point? Everyone thought he was just the neglected rich kid with the charity case mentor. His phone showed 17 unread messages from Sophia. He couldn't face them, couldn't face the pity or the anger or whatever she felt about her dad being dragged through mud. The room felt enormous and empty. Somewhere below, the city hummed with life, but Ethan felt suspended above it all, untethered. The ribbon fluttered in the AC's breeze, and he remembered Daniel's words, "The work matters more than the prize." But what happened when the work itself became poison, when every achievement just gave people more ammunition? He closed his eyes, wishing for sleep that wouldn't come, while 3 miles away his mother sat in a mechanic's kitchen, torn between two impossible choices. The week crawled forward like broken glass across skin. Amanda's phone became a weapon, each buzz another attack. Board members called at all hours, their voices sharp with barely concealed threats. "You have 48 hours to make this right," Walter's message read. "Or we convene for a no-confidence vote." Thursday morning brought the worst call yet. Richard didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're risking a billion-dollar company for a mechanic who plays teacher." Amanda gripped the phone so hard her knuckles whitened. "Daniel Alvarez worked on 3 Mars missions. Was past tense. Now he changes oil and you're letting him shape your son because what? You feel guilty about missing soccer games?" "This conversation is over." "No, Amanda. Your leadership is what's over if you don't fix this mess. The shareholders are spooked, stocks down 3%, all because you couldn't hire a proper tutor like a normal executive." The line went dead. Amanda sat in her office, the city sprawling beneath floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything she'd built, everything she'd sacrificed, it all balanced on a knife's edge because she'd dared to let someone genuine near her son. Across town, Daniel cranked a wrench beneath a Toyota, trying to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of repair, but the whispers followed him everywhere. At the corner store, Mrs. Chen spoke behind her hand to another customer. That Amanda woman, using him for good publicity. Poor man doesn't see it. At the gas station, Tom Bradley was less subtle. Hey, Alvarez, must be nice having a sugar mama CEO. What's she paying you to babysit? Daniel kept his responses minimal, polite, but each comment carved deeper. The breaking point came Friday afternoon. He was picking up groceries when he overheard two mothers from Sophia's school. It's disgusting, really. She parades him around like some diversity trophy. And he just goes along with it, probably hoping for a payout. Those poor kids caught in the middle of their parents' games. Daniel abandoned his half-filled cart and left. That evening, he sat at his kitchen table, hands clasped, wrestling with a decision that felt like tearing off his own arm. Sophia was at a friend's house. He'd arranged it deliberately, needing space to think. The prayer came hard. Lord, I don't understand your plan here. That boy needs guidance. But if I'm causing more harm than good... His phone rang. Amanda. Daniel, I need to see you. I was about to call you. They met at a small park between their neighborhoods, neutral ground. Amanda looked haggard, her usually perfect appearance cracked. Daniel seemed older somehow, shoulders carrying invisible weight. The board gave me an ultimatum, Amanda started. I know. You know? This was always going to happen. Different worlds colliding. Daniel's voice stayed gentle despite the hurt beneath. Your son doesn't need more scandal. He needs peace. If my presence ruins that, I'll disappear. Amanda's breath caught. Daniel? No. Listen to me. His firmness surprised them both. That boy is special, but he's drowning in adult problems he didn't create. Every headline, every whisper at school, it's breaking him down. So you're just giving up after everything? I'm choosing his well-being over my pride. What about Sophia? She adores Ethan. Daniel's composure cracked slightly. She'll understand. Eventually. Will she? Will Ethan? Amanda's voice rose. You're the first person who's made my son believe in himself. You're walking away because some bigoted board members... I'm walking away because staying hurts him more. The words hung between them like a closing door. Amanda drove home in silence, rehearsing impossible conversations. How did you tell a 12-year-old that the world was too cruel to let good things last? Ethan was doing homework at the dining table when she entered. He looked up, immediately reading her face. What's wrong? Amanda sat beside him, searching for words that wouldn't come as betrayal. Honey, things have gotten complicated with the media attention. About Daniel? Yes, it might be better if he didn't visit as often, just until things calmed down. Ethan's pencil stopped moving. You're firing him. No, that's not... You're always too busy, and now you're taking away the only person who listens. Ethan, please. He shoved back from the table, worksheet crumpling under his palm. I finally had someone who cared about what I think, not just my grades or your reputation. And you're ruining it, like you ruin everything. That's not fair. Isn't it? His voice cracked, 12 years old but carrying years of accumulated hurt. Every time something good happens, your work destroys it. Every time. He stormed toward his room. Amanda followed, desperate. Ethan, wait. The door slammed. The lock clicked. Amanda stood in the hallway, hand pressed against the wood. Inside, she heard muffled sounds, maybe crying, maybe throwing things. Her own tears came then, silent and bitter. I'm trying, she whispered to the closed door. I'm trying so hard. 3 miles away, Daniel knelt beside his bed, Sophia asleep down the hall. His words came soft, uncertain. God, if stepping back is right, why does it feel like abandonment? If staying is right, why does it cause such pain? I need a sign, something, anything. The house stayed silent except for the distant hum of traffic. offering no easy answers to impossible questions. Monday morning arrived like a punishment. Ethan stood at the school entrance, backpack heavy, waiting for the bell rather than going inside early like usual. When Amanda's car pulled up for afternoon pickup, he walked straight past it. "Ethan." He kept walking. Other parents noticed, whispered. Amanda followed slowly in her car, hazard lights blinking, executive pride crumbling with each step her son took away from her. 3 blocks later, he finally stopped at a bench. "This is ridiculous," she said through the lowered window. "So is pretending everything's fine." "Get in the car." "I'll walk." Tuesday was worse. Sophia found Ethan sitting alone at lunch, picking at an untouched sandwich. "My dad asks about you." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Tell him I'm fine." "You're not, though." "What's the point if he's gone?" The words came out raw, wounded. "Everyone leaves eventually." Sophia wanted to say her dad hadn't left, not really, but even at 12 she understood some hurts ran too deep for simple corrections. Wednesday evening, Amanda stood in her pristine kitchen, attempting something she hadn't done in years, cooking from scratch. The recipe was simple: spaghetti with homemade sauce, Ethan's former favorite. She chopped onions with unpracticed hands, their sting mixing with tears she blamed on the vegetables. "Dinner's ready," she called. Ethan appeared, surveyed the table set for 2, the attempt at normalcy. "I'm not hungry." "You need to eat." He took exactly 3 bites, chewing mechanically before pushing the plate away. "May I be excused?" "We need to talk." "About what? How you chose your board over me?" "That's not what happened." "Then explain it." His eyes held a challenge that looked too old for his face. "Explain why Daniel can't even visit anymore." Amanda opened her mouth, closed it. "How did you explain adult cruelty to a child already too familiar with disappointment?" Ethan waited exactly 5 seconds before standing. "That's what I thought." His bedroom door closed with quiet finality, somehow worse than slamming. Across town, Daniel's hands moved automatically under the hood of a Toyota, muscle memory guiding what his distracted mind couldn't. The shop was empty except for him, working late again, 3rd night this week. "You trying to set a record?" Jim, the owner, poked his head in. "Go home to your kid." "Just finishing up." "That's what you said 2 hours ago." Daniel emerged from under the hood, wiping hands that wouldn't come clean, no matter how hard he scrubbed. The grease was easier to bear than the silence where Ethan's questions used to be. At home, Sophia was doing homework at the kitchen table, math problems that didn't really need his help anymore. "How was school?" "Fine. Just fine." She looked up, considering how much truth to share. "Ethan's really sad, Dad." Daniel's hand stilled on the dish towel. "I know, mija. Can't you just—" "It's complicated. Adults always say that when they're making bad choices." The words stung because they carried truth. Daniel sat beside her, choosing his words carefully. Sometimes protecting someone means staying away. "That's stupid." Sophia --. "It is. Ethan thinks you abandoned him. He won't even talk to me properly anymore." Daniel absorbed this like a physical blow. "Give him time." "Time for what? To get sadder?" Thursday evening, Amanda found herself driving without destination, muscle memory carrying her through familiar streets until she realized where she'd ended up, parked across from Daniel's house. The living room window glowed warm against the darkness. Inside, she could see Daniel and Sophia at their small dining table, him checking her homework while she talked animatedly about something, hands moving in elaborate gestures. They laughed, a simple moment of connection that felt like everything Amanda had lost. She should leave, should drive away before someone noticed. Instead, she sat frozen, watching the life she'd disrupted and the peace she couldn't provide. Daniel stood, moving to the kitchen. For a moment he was at the window, silhouetted against the light. Amanda held her breath, certain he'd seen her, but he turned away, returning to Sophia with 2 mugs of what looked like hot chocolate. They had rituals, traditions, the kind of steady rhythm Ethan craved, and Amanda had never learned to provide. Her phone buzzed. Another email from the board, another crisis requiring immediate attention. She deleted it without reading. A tap on the window made her jump. Daniel stood beside her car, expression unreadable. Amanda lowered the window, prepared for anger, accusations. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I know, I needed to see." "That we're okay?" "We're not. None of us are." "Daniel, your son asked Sophia today if I ever mentioned him." She had to lie and say yes. His voice carried no judgment, just exhausted sadness. "Go home, Amanda. Be with your boy." He walked back inside without waiting for response. Amanda sat in her car another 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. "What am I doing to my son?" The question hung in the empty car, unanswered and unbearable. The boardroom smelled of leather and judgment. Amanda sat at the massive oak table, 20 faces arranged like a tribunal, their expressions ranging from disappointment to barely concealed satisfaction. Richard Hartley, the board chairman, cleared his throat. "We've given you time to resolve this situation, Amanda. The media attention has become untenable." "The stock price dropped 3 points," added Harrison, her rival, failing to hide his pleasure. "Investors are questioning your judgment." Amanda remained silent, hands folded on the table. "We need you to issue a statement," Richard continued. "Clarify that Mr. Alvarez was a temporary arrangement. Distance yourself completely. Make it clear that your professional standards remain uncompromised." "Professional standards," Amanda repeated, tasting the words. "The optics are disastrous," Margaret Chen interjected. "A CEO relying on a mechanic for parenting advice? It undermines everything we've built." "Everything we've built." Amanda's voice stayed level. "Tell me, Margaret, when did you last see your grandchildren?" "That's not relevant." "Richard, how many of your son's baseball games did you attend last year?" "Amanda, this isn't—" "0. I know because we scheduled board meetings during every single one." She stood, smoothing her skirt with steady hands. The room tensed. "You want me to publicly denounce a man who showed more compassion to my son in 2 months than I managed in 12 years? "We're trying to protect the company," Richard said. "From what?" "From the truth that a former NASA engineer—" Yes, look surprised, none of you bothered to check his actual background. "From the truth that this man saw a crying child and chose kindness over indifference?" Harrison leaned forward. "He's still just a mechanic now. The narrative—" "The narrative." Amanda walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan spreading below like a kingdom she no longer wanted. "Here's a narrative for you. A brilliant man gave up his engineering career to raise his daughter alone after his wife died. He chose love over prestige, and when he saw my son drowning in loneliness, he threw him a lifeline while I was too busy conquering markets to notice." "Amanda, be reasonable." She turned, facing them with a clarity that had been building since she'd sat outside Daniel's house. "If a man who once helped put astronauts in space isn't good enough to mentor my son, then maybe I'm not good enough to lead this company." Gasps rippled across the table. Margaret's coffee cup rattled against its saucer. "You can't be serious," Richard said. "My title means nothing if I fail as a mother." Amanda pulled the resignation letter from her portfolio, written at 3 a.m. when truth finally overwhelmed ambition. Effective immediately. "Amanda, wait." "The transition team has everything they need." Harrison. "Congratulations. You've wanted this chair for years." Harrison's triumph curdled into confusion. "You're actually walking away?" "From all of this?" "No, I'm walking toward something." She placed the letter on the table, her company keycard beside it. 20 years reduced to 2 small objects. "This is career suicide," Margaret whispered. "Maybe. Or maybe it's the first real decision I've made in years." Amanda left them sitting in stunned silence, her heels clicking against marble for the last time. The elevator descended 40 floors, each number counting down to freedom. Outside the glass tower, Manhattan air hit her lungs, exhaust and food trucks and life. Real life, not filtered through climate control and corporate PR. She stood on the sidewalk where she'd rushed past thousands of times, never stopping, never breathing. Her phone exploded with calls, texts, emails. She turned it off. That evening, Amanda found Ethan in his room, building a new rocket model alone. No Daniel to guide him, just YouTube videos and determination. "Can we talk?" He didn't look up. "About what?" "About everything. About how I failed you." That got his attention. Amanda sat on his bed, the designer suit she'd worn to her resignation, looking absurd among Star Wars sheets. "I've spent 12 years choosing my career over you. Every late night, every missed fare, every time I sent the nanny instead of coming myself." Ethan's hand stilled on the rocket parts. "I told myself I was building something important, that success would somehow make up for absence. But Daniel showed me what I'd been too blind to see, that you needed presence, not presents. Time, not just tuition checks." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I quit today." Ethan's head snapped up. "Quit what?" "Everything. The company, the board, the whole life that kept me from you." "But your job is everything to you." "No." Amanda's voice broke slightly. "I just forgot what everything really meant." Ethan studied her face, searching for the catch, the qualification, the but. "I gave up everything else today, but I'll never give up you." The silence stretched between them, years of distance not easily bridged. Then, slowly, Ethan reached for his nightstand drawer. He pulled out the ribbon from the STEM showcase, the one Daniel had helped him earn, and placed it in Amanda's hand. "This belongs to you too," he said quietly, "even if you weren't there." He walked to his room, leaving Amanda holding the small ribbon that weighed more than any acquisition she'd ever closed. The news broke differently than anyone expected, not as scandal, but as revelation. "CEO chooses son over billions," ran in the Times. Within hours, Amanda's resignation letter leaked, not through corporate sabotage, but from a board member's assistant who'd been moved to tears. Parents shared it on social media. Teachers discussed it in break rooms. The mechanic Daniel worked with showed him the article on a grease-stained phone, saying, "This your Amanda." Letters poured into Amanda's former office, forwarded by her bewildered successor. Mothers who'd missed bedtimes for quarterly reviews, fathers who'd chosen meetings over Little League. They wrote of recognition, of shame, of inspiration. 3 weeks later, NASA called Daniel. "Mr. Alvarez, this is Director Patricia Chen. We've been following your story, what you did for that boy. We'd like to discuss something." Daniel sat in his kitchen, Sophia doing homework nearby, certain this was a prank. "We're launching a youth STEM advisory program. We need someone who understands both the science and the heart of it, someone who remembers why wonder matters." The offer was part-time, consulting, but official. A badge again, a purpose beyond oil changes. "There's one more thing," Director Chen added. "We're inviting you and the families to Cape Canaveral next month for the Mars Supply mission launch. All of you." Daniel's hand shook slightly. "All of us?" "The Alvarez family and the Kingsleys. Consider it NASA's thank you for reminding us that inspiration can't be measured in calculations." The morning of the flight, Amanda arrived at JFK in jeans and a simple sweater, clothes she'd had to buy, having owned nothing but suits. Ethan barely recognized her. "You look different," he said. "Human?" "Yeah, that." Daniel and Sophia met them at the gate, Sophia bouncing with excitement, already wearing her NASA cap from years ago. The airline had upgraded them mysteriously, 4 seats together in Comfort Plus. "When did you fly last?" Amanda asked Daniel as they boarded. 10 years ago, for Maria's funeral, bringing Sophia home." The weight of that settled between them before Sophia's enthusiasm broke through. "Ethan! Window or aisle? We can see the clouds form from above." On the plane, Ethan claimed the middle seat between Daniel and the window without hesitation. As they climbed through New York's gray October morning into brilliant blue above, Ethan pressed his face to the window. Why do clouds look solid from up here, but like mist from below? Daniel explained perspective and density, his teaching voice natural as breathing. Amanda listened from across the aisle, watching her son absorb every word. Sophia sketched the cloudscape in a notebook, occasionally adding her own questions. "Mom, you're staring," Ethan said without looking away from the window. "Just memorizing," Amanda replied. "I have a lot of moments to make up for." At Orlando, a NASA van waited. The driver, a young engineer named Marcus, couldn't stop grinning. "Mr. Alvarez, I read your paper on trajectory calculations from 08. Still reference it." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "That was a long time ago." "Good math doesn't age, sir." The drive to Cape Canaveral took them through Florida wetlands, past signs counting down. Kennedy Space Center 30 miles, 20 miles, 10 miles. Each marker made the children bounce higher. "There," Sophia pointed at the vehicle assembly building, rising like a monument to ambition. "Tallest single-story building in the world." "How do you know that?" Ethan asked. "My dad taught me, when he still talked about this stuff." Daniel's reflection in the rearview mirror showed a man remembering who he used to be. They badged in at security, Daniel's hand trembling slightly as he signed his name on the advisory consultant line. The guard studied it. "Welcome back to NASA, Mr. Alvarez." Those 5 words hit Daniel like a physical force. Sophia grabbed his hand. The launch viewing area bustled with families, scientists, press. Director Chen met them personally, her silver hair catching Florida sun. "The rocket launches at 3:47 p.m. precisely. But first, some people want to meet you." She led them to a gathering of engineers, some who'd attended Ethan's science fair, others who'd heard the story. They surrounded Ethan, not as a curiosity, but as a future colleague. "Your lunar-based design," one said. "Have you considered solar panel efficiency at that latitude?" Ethan lit up, diving into technical discussion while Amanda watched, marveling at this confident boy who'd been crying at an empty table just months ago. As launch time approached, they took positions at the viewing platform. 3 miles from the pad, but the rocket still towered on the horizon. Ethan stood between Daniel and Amanda, Sophia beside her father. The countdown began at T-10 minutes. Ethan grabbed Daniel's hand instinctively. "Scared?" Daniel asked. "Excited, but also scared. Is that weird?" "That's exactly right. Every launch should inspire both." At T-1 minute, the crowd quieted. Even the children stood still. 10, 9, 8. Ethan squeezed Daniel's hand tighter. 7, 6, 5. "When I grow up," Ethan whispered, "I want to be like you." Daniel's eyes welled, his voice thick. "No, son. Aim higher, reach for the stars." 2, 1, ignition. The rocket erupted in controlled fury, the sound reaching them seconds later. Not just noise, but physical force, rattling ribs and stealing breath. The machine rose, defying everything that said it should stay earthbound. Amanda stood beside them, watching fire carry human ambition skyward, feeling years of emptiness burn away in that brilliant trail. Her son's hand in Daniel's, Sophia reaching for her father's other hand, and somehow Amanda's own fingers found Ethan's shoulder. 3 weeks after Florida, Amanda stood in her kitchen holding a spatula like a foreign object. Smoke curled from the pan. "Mom, it's supposed to be golden, not black." Ethan reached around her, adjusting the heat. Since she'd resigned, their penthouse had transformed, no longer a sterile way station, but something attempting warmth. Takeout containers had given way to grocery bags. The dining table, once buried under contracts, held Ethan's homework. "How does Daniel make it look easy?" Amanda muttered, scraping burnt eggs into the trash. "Practice. And he doesn't try to answer emails while cooking." She'd been checking her phone. Old habit. She set it aside, started fresh eggs. Better? Getting there. The eggs turned out edible. They ate together, Ethan explaining his history project between bites. Amanda listened, really listened, not planning responses or checking time. We could ask Daniel, Ethan suggested. He lived through the space race. Well, the end of it. Saturday. Daniel's new schedule challenged everything. Mornings at the shop, afternoons with NASA's youth program, evenings with Sophia. Somehow he made it work. Mr. Alvarez, you've got grease under your nails again, teased Margaret, the program coordinator. Authentic teaching aid, Daniel replied, showing the middle schoolers. Real engineers get dirty. Space shuttles don't build themselves. The kids, 12 of them from across the district, hung on every word. Since the news coverage, parents begged for spots in his program. He'd insisted on lottery selection, no preferences for wealth or connections. Can Ethan help demonstrate? Asked Jamal, a 7th grader. Ask him yourself. He'll be here soon. Amanda had started dropping Ethan off after school, not her assistant, not a driver, Amanda herself. Saturday arrived crisp and bright. Amanda parked outside Daniel's house, holding a grocery bag awkwardly. I brought ingredients. For that thing you made last week. Mole? Daniel smiled. That takes 6 hours. I have time. The garage had evolved into a full workshop. Sophia and Ethan hunched over a robotics kit, programming sequences while arguing cheerfully about optimization. Your code's too complex, Sophia insisted. Your solution ignores half the problem, Ethan countered. Children, Daniel called. Debug later. Cook now. They moved to the kitchen, Amanda fumbling with unfamiliar spices while Daniel guided gently. His hand covered hers, showing the grinding motion for cumin. Firm but patient, he said. Like teaching. Or parenting, Amanda added quietly. Sophia and Ethan made salsa, more tomato ending on their clothes than in the bowl. When Sophia flicked cilantro at Ethan, he retaliated with lime juice. Food fight equals dish duty, Daniel warned. They settled instantly but kept giggling. How do you do that? Amanda asked. Clear boundaries, consistent enforcement. They know I mean it. I used to think leadership at work meant, this is different. They're not employees. No, Amanda agreed, watching Ethan help Sophia reach a high shelf. There's so much more. The mole simmered for hours. They passed time in the garage, Amanda tentatively holding tools, while Daniel explained their purposes. Phillips head, not flathead, he corrected gently. They look the same. Like rockets and missiles. Similar appearance, different purposes. Sophia snorted. Mom can't tell those apart either. The casual mom hung in the air. Sophia flushed, stuttering. I didn't... It's okay, Amanda said softly. It's okay. Ethan looked between them, then announced, I'm hungry. Is it ready yet? Daniel checked the pot. 20 more minutes. At school Monday, the change was palpable. Parents who'd whispered now approached Amanda at pickup. Thank you, said Mrs. Patterson, whose son attended Daniel's program. Jeremy actually wants to be an engineer now. That's all, Daniel, Amanda deflected. No, it's both of you. Showing kids that success isn't just about money or titles. Amanda found herself in unfamiliar territory. Parent small talk. She discovered she enjoyed it. Meanwhile, Daniel fielded his own encounters at the shop. Heard NASA brought you back, said Tom, a regular customer. Part-time, advisory. My daughter saw you on the news. Says you're why she's taking calculus. She's why she's taking calculus. Maybe. But you showed her where it leads. Thursday evening they gathered again for dinner. Daniel's kitchen table, scarred wood and honest history, had become their center. Amanda brought dessert, store-bought but improving. Daniel made enchiladas. The kids set the table without being asked. They ate and talked, conversations flowing between school gossip and rocket propulsion, teacher complaints and constellation patterns. Nobody checked phones. Nobody rushed. "Mom, can we stay later?" Ethan asked. Daniel was going to show us Jupiter through his telescope. "School night," Amanda started, then caught herself. "But education, right?" They bundled in jackets, standing in Daniel's small backyard while he adjusted the telescope. Jupiter emerged, massive and serene, 4 moons visible as tiny dots. "Those are the Galilean moons," Daniel explained. "Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto." "Like a family," Sophia said. They took turns looking. Amanda last. As she peered through the eyepiece, Ethan's voice came soft beside her. "This feels like home." She pulled back from the telescope, seeing them all in the porch light. Daniel's steady presence, Sophia's bright energy, Ethan's growing confidence, their shadows overlapping on grass. "Yes," Amanda said, surprising herself with the certainty. "It does." Spring arrived with dogwood blossoms and fresh starts. The school gymnasium buzzed with preparation as Amanda directed volunteers like a conductor with an orchestra, except now she smiled while doing it. "Tables along the walls, demonstration space in the center," she called out. Clipboard forgotten in favor of hands-on help. Daniel unloaded boxes from his truck, NASA engineers beside him carrying donated equipment. They'd answered his call without hesitation, some driving hours to attend. "Where do you want the telescope?" asked Rodriguez, one of Daniel's former colleagues. "By the windows. Natural darkness helps." The gym had transformed since that awful science fair. Fresh paint covered old water stains. New banners proclaimed Community STEM Night in bold letters. Amanda had secured funding through connections, but more importantly, through passion. Board members from her former company, inspired by her sacrifice, contributed personally. "Mom, where should we set up?" Ethan asked, carrying a display board with Sophia. "Wherever feels right." They chose a spot near the entrance, confident now, wanting to be seen first. By 6 o'clock, families streamed in. Parents who'd once gossiped now brought cookies and enthusiasm. Children raced between stations, robotics here, chemistry there, astronomy in the corner. Ethan and Sophia stood proudly beside their joint project, a water purification system designed for space stations but applicable to disaster relief. Months of garage tinkering had produced something remarkable. "How does filtration work in zero gravity?" asked a 4th grader. Ethan launched into explanation while Sophia demonstrated with their model. No tears this time, no empty table. Their audience grew organically, genuinely interested. Amanda watched from across the room, chest tight with pride. Daniel appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of coffee from the PTA table. "They're natural teachers," he said. "Wonder where they learned that." He smiled, that quiet expression she'd come to treasure. Some lessons teach themselves. At 7:30, Amanda took the microphone. The crowd quieted, faces turning toward her, not the CEO commanding attention, but the mother who'd earned it. 8 months ago, my son cried at his empty science fair table. Today, this room overflows with curiosity and support. That transformation didn't happen because of money or connections. She found Daniel in the crowd, his eyes encouraging. It happened because one man saw a crying child and acted. Because NASA engineers remembered that science serves humanity. Because our children deserve communities that lift them higher. Her voice strengthened. Titles and wealth don't define us. What matters is the courage to love, to listen, and to lift each other higher. Every child here has rocket fuel in their dreams. Our job is to help them launch. Applause erupted, genuine and warm. Parents wiped eyes. Children cheered. The NASA engineers started chanting, "Launch! Launch! Launch!" until the whole gym joined in. As families filtered out, Amanda found herself stacking chairs alongside other parents. No delegation, no distance, just community work. Daniel appeared, carrying a box of leftover materials. "Good speech." "I meant every word." "I know." They worked in comfortable silence until the gym was nearly empty. Ethan and Sophia sat on the bleachers, comparing notes from the evening, planning improvements for next time. "Thank you," Amanda said suddenly. "For what?" "Everything. But mostly, you didn't save just my son, Daniel. You saved me too." He set down the box, turning to face her fully. "That's the thing about saving people, Amanda. Sometimes they save you right back." "How did I—" "You think I was complete? A washed-up engineer hiding in a garage?" His voice roughened. "Ethan brought purpose back. You brought possibility." She stepped closer. "We're quite a pair of broken people." We're broken. Now we're something else." "What?" "Healing. Together." The parking lot glowed under streetlights as they walked out together. Ethan and Sophia ran ahead, Ethan's new confidence evident in his stride. They'd found a stick. If you enjoyed the story, I hand-picked this next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.